Hello everyone and good afternoon, welcome. This is Talking Jobs with me, Dr. Rbromnick. Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about interviews. If you were a biscuit, what biscuit would you be? And other such questions. So we're talking about professional or graduate level interviews, maybe for a job that you're going for, it could be for a postgraduate course. This podcast will cover both of those. So you've got to the interview stage of selection. So well done, congratulations. It means you're suitable for the role. Do you want to know my sort of top tip as a key to success at interviews? I think the answer is preparation. Preparation. So, before you go to the interview, do your homework. Find out as much as you can about the employer or the specific department or course where you're applying. Make sure before you go to the interview that you revise the job spec and plan out some answers. Look over what you sent them in your application. Revise what you said you could do, and then look also at what they said they were looking for. When you get to the interview, essentially there's 4 questions that form the basis of all interviews. So I'm going to give you what I think they are, and then, you can include this in your preparation. So essentially, these are the 4. Why do you want this job or course? What do you know about this job? What makes you think you can succeed on this job or course? And also, crucially, why do you want to work or study with us? Particularly pertinent if you're applying for a course. Why have you applied for a course at Lincoln or Exeter or wherever? Why have you chosen that institution when there are competing other courses? Okay, so the big day arrives and you head off for your interview. First impressions, do they count? Well, I think as psychologists we have to say, yes, they do. So do what you can to enhance your first impression to the employer. Remember to be on time, dress appropriately, switch off your goddamn mobile phone. There's people who've been lost jobs just because their mobile's gone off during the interview. Appear positive and smile. And now this is going to sound a little bit mumsy of me, but I would say make sure you get plenty of rest the night before. Don't forget to eat and arrive hydrated. Lots of water on board. Okay, interviews are nerve-wracking. So how can you deal with your nerves? Well, first of all, expect to be nervous, and also people interviewing you will expect you to be nervous. There are things you can do, the sort of usual advice of handling nerves in this situation, like breathing, relaxing your shoulders. Some of that is easier said than done, as many of you will know. I mean, as psychologists, we can apply psychology to our own situation. So your body responds in the same way to stress or excitement. You get that adrenaline rush, that butterflies in your stomach, and it's really hard. I mean, I find it really hard to say to my body when it's feeling, adrenaline running and what have you. I find it really hard to just say, chill out, it's just an interview. My body feels like the hairy mammal is trying to chase me. And actually, I read a really interesting study, and what this study said was, because your body, responds in the same way to stress or excitement, you need to try to find that stress sweet spot and turn the sort of threat into excitement. So what the study did was they separated participants into 3 groups. One group tried the meditation, relax, before this stressful event. The other group were told, don't try to meditate, just say to yourself when you feel these butterflies and so forth, tell yourself, I am excited, I feel excited. And the third group, control group, yada, 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 you know all about that kind of thing. So anyway, the people who were told to feel excited were able to turn that threat to challenge and performed better than the people who tried to meditate. So I always like to sing, not at the interview or presentation, but beforehand. I'm so excited, and I just got Oh, sorry about that. But find what works for you. And also remember, when you do go for interview, overconfident people can be a real turn-off to some employers. Okay, so now inside the interview, basically we're going to run through what to expect. So most interviews will start with an introduction. There may be a panel. They might introduce themselves. There might be some introduction to the organisation or department where you're going to be working. People will welcome you. They will do their best to put you at ease. They know that you may be nervous. And, they'll take it from there. The interview, the main part of the interview will be structured and specific questions aimed at finding out about you and your suitability for the post. And quite often what you say will generate follow-on questions. So what sort of type of questions can you expect? Well, as I said at the start, they'll try to put you at ease. You might start off with some warm-up questions. So there may be questions about your academic background, about where you've travelled from. They might just ask you things like, can you tell us a bit about yourself and why you've applied, to put you at ease and find out those sort of questions about you. In the main sort of part of the interview, you might get questions that are hypothetical, so scenario-based questions. What would you do if? And you may get questions that are about, tell us about a time when. If you get a question that's tell us about a time when, think about specific skills that you've used, about activities and qualifications, bring it all together. And this is where your preparation comes in, because you can write out a good few examples before you go into the interview. Remember as well, when you answer these questions, state what you did. More I and less we. You might also get technical or discipline-specific questions depending on what you're applying to. So if you're applying for something in psychology, some of you know that one of the questions we like to ask people at postgraduate level is, what is your favourite theory in psychology? Oh my goodness, it's amazing how that throws some people, but it's about walking the talk. It's really easy to say, I love psychology, I'm good at psychology. They want to see that you can apply it. So if you're going for a psychology interview, they might give you a scenario or a case study, or they might ask you to plan a piece of research or apply a particular theory to something that they've given you to look at. So they'll be looking to see that you can kind of articulate your achievements and demonstrate them there at the interview. Okay, so more types of questions. You might get asked about your strengths and weaknesses. You may get asked about your motivation and ambitions. Don't be disarmed if they ask you questions about things that you've put on your application or your CV. It may be that there's a separate panel scoring the application and the interview. They might be looking to see how well or how passionately you can articulate your achievements. So don't worry about repeating things in the interview that are from your application. Okay, now then, the serious business. If you were a biscuit. So you might get asked off-the-wall questions. I read something, I think, that said recruiters, I don't know, about 50% might use some of these sort of curveball questions. They use them to test your skills, thinking on your feet, creative thinking, how you react to the unexpected. I'll tell you one that I heard that I think I really like, actually. This question, see what you think. How would you describe the colour green to someone who is blind? Another sort of example of an off-wall question. If you do get asked one of these questions, do not panic. I mean, you can't easily prepare, which is why they ask them. So sort of say what comes to mind. I have to admit, don't worry too much about this. If you're going for a job in the public sector, health or education or something like that, I would be really surprised if they did ask you one of these questions, but it does say 50% of recruiters. So if you're going for something that's more commercial, more creative, you have to prepare for the unpreparable and just have a laugh, take it in good spirit and go for it. Although I have to admit, I'm not sure I'd want to work for a firm that asked me too many stupid questions. And interviews are a two-way process. You might decide the organisation's not right for you. Okay, so they will have asked you all of your questions and the interview will end with some kind of closing. There may be an opportunity for you to ask final questions and they might say something like, do you have any questions for us? Well, my advice, don't pass on that opportunity. It's really important that you can keep the interview going by thinking of something to say. Rule number 1, don't ask about money, holidays, benefits, etc. People say it's quite good to talk about training or any continuing professional development opportunities. You can ask about induction programs and so forth. I'll tell you a question I heard that I really liked when I was interviewing somebody for a graduate role, and she asked, so it was on the lines of, if I'm successful, how best could I prepare for this role? And I thought, yeah, that's a good question. We gave her some tips. Sometimes people will ask about career paths. That's entirely appropriate, especially at the start of your career. And, I mentioned at the start, preparation. You can prepare some questions to ask the employer or course leader. So just before I go, remember as well that interviews can be part of a larger selection process. They might be part of an assessment centre, or they might ask you to do a presentation. And the initial interview may be by telephone or Skype. We're really happy to help you prepare. It's a big achievement. It's a big day for you. Could be the start of like a whole new chapter of your life. So go for it and, track me down or pop into your career service if you want some extra tips and guidance. So, thank you everyone. If you were a biscuit, what would you be? You've been listening to Talking Jobs with me, rbromnick. See you later, everyone. Bye. I'm so excited. Woo, woo.